Okay, I've made up the plates already because it took quite a while to do, okay? And to be honest, I actually forgot to press the record button on the video. Anyway, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to demonstrate how I would have set them up. I'm just going to move these to one side and then come back to them in a second with a couple of spare plates here. Okay, so what I did first was I got a ml of the bacterial solution that came from the 5th of February out, put it onto one plate, which I would have labelled up, okay, and that plate was this one here, okay, and I've now taped this one up. So I put a ml of the pure bacterial solution on there, okay. Now then what I did was I took a ml of this and I put it into this one, and I took a ml of that one and put it into that one, a ml of that one and put it into that one, a ml of that one and put it into that one. So I'm doing a 1/10 dilution each time. So in here was 9 centimetres cubed of distilled water plus my 1 ml of bacteria, and that's how that works. So I'm going to demonstrate how I put these on. Now, so I took 1 ml from here, put it in there, put it in there, put it in there, put it all the way along, okay? And then what I did was, with the plates, is I started with the one that was the most dilute, was supposed to be the most dilute, this one here, okay? And that will be the plate that is labelled with 10 to the minus 8 on it, that one, okay? So what I'm going to do is going to demonstrate how I can take the bacteria out from here, put it on a plate, and I'll do it for a couple of plates just so you can see how that works. So we've got this mineral wool to protect it. It's all been sterilised with aluminium foil, and I'll stop talking as I start to get the stuff out. Now I turned the plate over, okay, because I want to put the liquid onto the agar that way, and then I'll spread it around and then leave it for a bit, and then I'll turn it back up the right way when it goes in the incubator. Now notice that I'm going into the next one, which is the second most dilute. And that way, any contamination from here, I'm going from dilute to more concentrated, and that is, the way that you need to do it to avoid. If I went from concentrated to dilute, I would make this I would make it less dilute. Whereas if I take dilute into concentrated, I'm not actually changing the concentration of the one that's less concentrated very much. So swirling the solution around so that it's spread evenly on the plate. Okay, so that's how I made that, okay? And you can see that you can actually see that one is more cloudy. That's the one that's the least dilute, okay, apart from the one that's pure, okay? And then I put tape around this one. Okay, and I put tape around one side, okay, just like that, just to hold it so that people know not to open the plate up afterwards, okay. I don't put it around the side because I don't want to grow any anaerobic bacteria, the ones that don't need oxygen, that may have been living inside me. They're fine when they're inside me. If I get them outside of me, then they can they're not good for spreading around. Okay, so this tip I've used, okay, and it now needs to go into this disinfectant. Okay, so that goes into the disinfectant. This is now obviously finished with, and it can be reused to sterilise more tips if need be. Okay, so here are the plates. I've put sellotape on this first one, I'll put sellotape on the others, and then I'll put them in the incubator over there at 27 degrees C, and we'll come back and look at them in a couple of days to see how they've got on. Now the idea is that with this one I expect it to be bacteria all over the place. Yes, I expect there to be bacteria all over the place on that one. Okay, but as I make it get more dilute, okay, eventually I'll get to a plate where I can actually count how many individual colonies there are. Okay, and then I can multiply up, okay, to find out how many or how much bacteria is in a mil of this. Okay, now I know this was set up on the 5th of February, so it's now 5 days old. So I know that in per mil of bacterial solution, I can work out how many roughly, or a pretty reasonable amount of bacteria in my 1 mil of this broth. Now, if I did that for various days, okay, I could then work out the growth rate of the bacteria, which is obviously a very useful piece of information to know. Okay, so I have laden this with pure bacteria. I've laden these with diluted bacteria, going down by a tenth each time. You can see this lid has fallen off, but that's okay now. Obviously we're going to get rid of these solutions now. So I've gone down a tenth each time, okay, and therefore I will be able to multiply up by a factor of 10, count up how many colonies I've got, count up by, multiply by a factor of 10. So if it's on the 10 to the minus 5 plate, I need to times by 10 to the 5, okay, and that will tell me how many bacteria would have been in a mil of this solution. Okay, and I will check those in a couple of days' time.